had the great opportunity to be invited to a friend's home away from town, or maybe to a beach house or mountain house recently, you know, if you're like me, I'm always thinking, what could I take as a bread and butter gift for the invitation? I've got some great ideas for you today. All three, or maybe just one, would be the perfect gift when you arrive. One of them is an appetizer that you can put together very simply, take to have on the very first night you get there while you're catching up, having a cocktail. The next one is a breakfast casserole, and this is not the one you've been making for years, so tune in for this for sure. And then finally, what about a casserole that they could enjoy long after you're gone, that you take frozen? They can put it in the freezer with some instructions on how to bake it later. Great ideas, wonderful ways to get that invitation to come back. So I hope you'll join me, because we're going to have a lot of fun. Get those creative juices going for the next time you're invited to someone's home or their vacation home. You want to be sure that you take a special treat. You know, we all kind of go quickly to a bottle of wine or maybe some sort of thank you gift, but why don't you make something yourself? And I'm going to give you some really simple ideas that will have you being invited many, many more times. So I'm going to get started with a breakfast casserole that I saw a sausage a few weeks ago in the grocery store that I'd never seen before, with chicken and apples, and had a maple flavor, and I thought, gosh, that would be so good for a breakfast casserole. So I'm going to get it started on the stove with getting it sauteed. So these are just the lengths of sausage. And in the meantime, I'm going to put together a guacamole that is fabulous. So I've already gotten started with my favorite wooden salad bowl, because I'm going to use a sharp knife to cut into the avocado instead of mashing it up. That's what makes this guacamole so special. So let me show you how to cut a nice ripe avocado for your guacamole. I'm just going to take this sharp knife and I'm going to go all the way around the outside of the avocado. And then it should just pop open, as you see. And then I'm going to take the same knife and I'm just going to quickly go in, and that's how you get the seed out. It just pops right out. Now if I can get it off the knife, there it goes. Okay, so now you've got a beautiful avocados, nice and green on the outside, a pretty yellow, and I'm just going to take a spoon and we're just going to hollow it out. And it just comes out so well. The outside of the avocado is nice and firm, so you can just really scrape, and you want to be sure you get all that nice and green out of there. Same on both. And this, just when you're using an avocado, if it, you know, is not quite as green as you like, the longer it sits, it's going to continue to get ripe. All right, so I've got that in, and while that is sitting, I'm going to turn this sausage. It's going to just get nice and brown. All right, to keep the greenness on there, I'm going to put the lemon in a lemon press in this bowl, just to make sure we don't get any seeds in the avocado. And pour that over, and that helps keep it from turning really brown. To that, I'm going to add a garlic clove, and I've just pressed it down with the knife so that it can easily peel off. And I'm going to put this into my garlic press, and then use my paring knife to get all of that off. All right, then I've got a red onion, and I used a large red onion. I only needed about 3 slices. So I'm going to cut this through and get this really nice and thinly sliced. And I love to use the red onion in guacamole, not only for the color, but also because it's just got a really great flavor. You know, most of the time I'm using Vidalia onions, since that's our seasonal and our state onion, but I love to use the red onion in the guacamole. Get that chopped up. And that sausage is really smelling good. This appetizer is perfect for the very first night that you arrive. at your guest home. So I'm going to put about half of that in. It's a little bit larger than I thought. And then I've got some jalapeno pepper that I've seeded out and cut really thin. And then the last thing you want to add is your chopped tomato that I seeded. And I'm actually going to take my knife and cut through the avocado before I get the rest of those tomatoes in there. Otherwise, some of that red color will kind of come through. But you see how I'm just taking the knife and nicely going through. And this is just going to be nice and chunky and so good. I'm going to turn off these sausages because they're looking perfect. And when we come back, I'm going to finish putting the guacamole, all the seasoning in there. I'm going to get the sausage cut up, and we're going to be ready to make the breakfast casserole. So come back in just a few minutes. Got a lot going on. You know, we put together the guacamole right before the break, and I wanted to show you how it turned out. You know, it's nice and chunky, and that avocado is just going to really come through with the red onions and the peppers, all the different ingredients, garlic. But I want to add some freshly cracked tricolor peppercorns to that, and then I'm going to sit it aside, let all of those flavors go in. This is just going to be delicious. So let me put that back here, and we're going to get started on this breakfast casserole. You know, I just had to come up with a recipe that would work with this delicious sausage. So I'm going to put that together. But before we get started, I want to season the ground beef that's going to be part of the Mexican casserole. I've got some really good ground beef. And again, economically, you can do lots of different things. You can use the ground chuck, the ground round, whatever happens to be on sale. This is actually ground round. And to this, I'm going to add just some coarsely ground kosher salt, probably about a teaspoon. This is 1.5 pounds of ground beef, and about the same amount of coarsely ground pepper, and also some chili powder. And this is going into the Mexican casserole that we're going to make, that you're going to freeze and you're going to take with you when you go to those friends' house. They're going to want to invite you more and more. So I like to season the meat when it's still raw, just kind of like I do a hamburger patty, so all of that flavoring will go through. So I'm going to set that aside, and let's get started on this breakfast casserole. You know, again, economically, I remembered that when I was a child, my grandmother used to take a paper towel. She would dab it with just a little bit of olive oil, and that's how she greased her pan. And you know, we're all using pan spray all the time, but she would just take that paper towel and go all the way around her cake pan or her Pyrex pan, and then she would just fold it up, put it back in the container, and she would use that for several days. So what we have here to go with this delicious sausage is a raisin cinnamon bread, and I'm going to use a serrated knife. Many times a recipe like this will tell you to cut the crust off, but I actually like to have the variation of the crust with the bread. I'm just going to cut 6 pieces of this straight down to cube this bread. And the flavor of the cinnamon and the raisin with this apple walnut chicken sausage is going to be terrific. So now let's just take this bread and push it all the way around in this casserole dish. That is going to be so good. Evenly distribute that. And now the sausage I took and cut into about 1/4 inch pieces. And then I've taken my larger knife and I'm just going to go straight down the center so that you've got nice bite-sized pieces. Now all of this is going to go next. And again, you're just sprinkling everything evenly around in the pan. The combination of the raisins, the apples, the maple flavor is going to be great with this. Now this is where the original recipe kind of came in handy. I've got 5 eggs that I've put in the bowl, and I'm just gonna whip those up with my fork. And to that, I'm gonna add half and half. And then what ingredients would be really good to make this a little different is a little bit of rosemary. Love that with chicken. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon, and then a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now mix this up. I'm going to put the cheese on top, and I've got a sharp cheddar for the sharpness and a little bit of mozzarella. So when we come back, I'm going to put the finishing touches on this yummy breakfast casserole and tell you how you can serve it tomorrow morning or save it for later. I don't know about you, but I want to always make sure I'm invited back when I get an invitation to a special friend's home or beach home, mountain home for the weekend. So I've put together a breakfast casserole that would be perfect to take with you for the weekend. We've got it all together, and now I'm going to pour the eggs and cream mixture that we've got with rosemary and cinnamon. And this is an apple sausage breakfast casserole. So that's going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. And you can do that ahead and freeze it as well. So let's get started on the Mexican casserole that's going to be your parting gift that you can leave with your guests for them to enjoy another time, and you're going to take it frozen. So we're putting this together in a disposable pan, and you can pick these up right in the grocery store. But this recipe uses 6 of the corn tortilla shells, and I've lined the bottom of the pan with those. And then we went ahead and browned the seasoned ground beef that we had earlier with the salt, the pepper, and the chili pepper. So I'm going to take about half of this and cover the shells with it. And you know, this is such a great recipe. Kids will love this too. It's wonderful for just a quick meal with a salad. So that'll be a way for your hostess to have the night out. All right, on top of that, we're going to put a half of a can of kidney beans. I'm just going to sprinkle those through. And then we're going to do a mixture of cream of chicken soup and Rotel tomatoes. And if you've never used Rotel tomatoes, they've got a nice kick. And with the cream of mushroom soup, this is going to be a really nice sauce to go in this casserole. So I'm just going to put this together in a bowl and mix it up. And again, this is something that you can take frozen, and they can enjoy this week or the next week or anytime. So just mix this together, and this just makes a really nice creamy kind of hot sauce. The original recipe called for Velveeta cheese, and I've kind of changed it a little bit. I like a brie cheese for a nice soft cheese, but economically, if you wanted not to spend quite as much, of course the Velveeta cheese is a little bit less. But the brie is going to be awesome with all these flavors that we're using today. So I've got half of that. I'm going to put half of the soup and tomato mixture over it and spread that around. And then we'll begin to redo the process. So again, the 6 shells will go on, the rest of the ground beef. And I've kind of put the shells up so it kind of creates a crust on the outside. the rest of the hamburger meat. And I love hamburger meat when it's on sale. It's just such a great thing to just have in the freezer for something as simple as a casserole like this. So I'll continue to make these layers and get this ready to pop in the oven. You can take it with you. So come back with us. I'm going to show you how to garnish everything we're doing, because remember, these are gifts that you're taking with you to thank a guest for a wonderful weekend. Come back and we'll put it all together. Moms and dads, you can't start too early teaching your young person about writing a thank you note. Even as a very small child, they can fill in the blanks on one that's already printed with thank you for the stuffed animal, I love you, and their name. But it goes on through grade school when they're given gifts at Christmas time, when they get gifts for their birthday. They should be prompted to write those thank you notes. As adults, we all seem to forget that a thank you note is still one of the most genuine expressions that you can offer. Whether you sit down after you've attended a function at someone's home that was maybe held by a group, and you take just a moment to say, thank you for opening up your home and allowing us to be there tonight. It was beautiful. That means so much to the host or hostess. So take a minute, get that pen and paper out, and write a beautiful thank you note. All right, our plan today was to make sure you're re-invited when you're invited to someone's home for the weekend or their beach or mountain house. So before the break, we were finishing that Mexican casserole that you're going to leave frozen for them to enjoy after you're gone. And what I did to finish it off was I took 2 or 3 of the rounds and cut into 6 just to kind of sprinkle that on top before it went in the oven. And now before freezing, I want to take some more of the mozzarella cheese and just go across the top with that. And now this is when it turns into a gift. Remember, we made this in a disposable pan so that you could leave the whole dish with them. And these are sold with these wonderful tops that just go on the top and they crimp. So at this point, I'm going to take out my Sharpie and I'm going to write on the top, Mexican casserole, 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Now let's wrap it up and make it look like a gift. So I've got some brown craft paper, and I'm just going to take this out, and we're going to just wrap it up like we're taking a present. And this can actually go right in the freezer just like this, and protects it as well in case they want to keep it there for a little while before they use it. I'm going to seal up the ends. Just go through the bottom with that. And the same thing with this end. And just a little bit more tape on the bottom to hold that in place. And then I love to use something fresh for the garnish when I wrap up a gift. You know, the children love a sucker or something like that. But I'm just going to take the raffia and make a bow on the outside. And then to that, I'm going to put some of the fresh peppers that were actually in the recipe. So let's see. Just tie that up in a bow. And then you can garnish it with the peppers that they can use for later. And take that Sharpie again and write the same instructions on the outside. Will make that look great. All right, the breakfast casserole that can be your invitation to have the hostess out of the kitchen that morning or the next day. Let's see what that looks like. That's gonna be just great. This is the raisin bread. This has the chicken, sausage, and one of my suggestions with this was maple syrup because it has a little bit of sweetness to it. So I'm going to pour that over. And this is just going to be the nicest combination of eggs, French toast, raisin bread, everything you love. And the aroma in the house that day will be great. And then finally, I'm at my guacamole that's going to be so good. And remember, all of these recipes are available at NBC26.tv. I hope you'll try them. Always take a gift when you're going to see someone. It's just the right thing to do because remember, whatever you do, do it in good taste. Scrumptious.